mindset, next level, not stress. When we were young, we couldn't rest. Gotta break the game to be the president. So here's to the freedom we know. Better hope you're ready to go. We're coming for ya. We're coming for ya. And everybody's gonna know. We're coming for ya. We're coming for ya. And everybody's gonna
know. Esports is blowing up. Esports is the next big thing. Esports is valued at insert ridiculous billion-dollar number figure here and is gonna be huge. If you actually had to take 10 Rand every single time someone said that and add it to your Steam wallet, I guarantee you by the end of the month, you'd be able to buy quite a few games because that's what everyone says. They also talk a lot about the South African esports industry. So they'll throw things around saying it's about to go big. We're on an upward trajectory. They'll say all of these things, and then they'll also mention to you that it's in its infancy. It's a new thing, right? They're selling you on a new idea. They forget that it's not that new. Believe it or not, esports has been around for about 16 years, and it started at rAge. You'll be surprised at what was going on all that time, way back then, before esports was even a thing. International players, big competitions, proper prize pools. It was all happening. I know you don't believe me, so I'm gonna stop talking and instead I'm gonna show you exactly what this looks like. Come with me, we're gonna take a walk back in history to see where it all began. And I can't do this alone, so joining me are some of the most prolific voices and faces of South African esports, all of whom got their start right here at rAge.
Hey, my name's Tian Kurten, in-game next TC. And I'm the now ex-coach for Cloud9.
So, name's Trevor Henry, my nickname is Quickshot. I was born in Pretoria, raised in Johannesburg.
Hey, I'm Kamzambata.
Hey, Mouse.
I'm a presenter, MC, and a big-time gamer who's kind of been able to mesh that all into the world of esports and gaming over the years.
They had just started, actually, and for any of the golden oldies that will remember Agasa, AGASA, that actually predated even Telkom Do Gaming. And I was very excited at the time because I cut my teeth playing Battlefield 2 on Telkom servers. A guy by the name of Vinko Soldo, his nickname was Chaos AD Pumpkinhead. He said to me, invited me to a team one day, to a squad, and said, listen, would you like to play for BFB at rAge? I said, what is rAge? What is this? What do you mean play? Like, it's an expo. I said, no, there's tournaments, every year. So I went in, wasn't actually meant to compete my first year, and fortunately played very well. BFB made it all the way to the final. We lost to FIB. And that was my first real experience. It was, we were hidden in a hole. Everything was illuminated. There was no banners. There was no sponsors. This was just Telkom's way of generating interest and activity on their servers. It's crazy to think where it was. It's even more exciting that I can be talking to you now and seeing, teams like Bravado and seeing representatives from South Africa performing in Overwatch and Counter-Strike, which is something that's happened for a long time.
So, I remember all of that. Back then it wasn't even about the prizes, right? It was more about the glory. You just wanted to be able to call yourself the best in the country.
In 2005, esports was first introduced to the rAge Expo when Jonathan Fatality Wendell attended. Considered one of the pioneers of esports and for many years one of the best gamers in the world, the number one ranked Quake 3 player competed against rAge visitors in a 1v1 tournament with, get this, 20,000 Rand cash prize up for grabs. Spoiler, he completely wrecked everyone. In 2006, even more international esports players arrived at the expo to compete in Arena 77's Quake 4 competition. Fatality was back, and along with him, 2 women from Girls of Destruction, an international competitive Quake team. So yes, even back in 2006, rAge was leading the pack because women gamers were more than welcome and competing at the highest level. At the end of that competition, the USA's Lost Cause was the eventual winner and took home the grand prize. What I'm getting at is that international esports stars were in South Africa, courtesy of rAge, before it was even considered a thing.
You need to have a portfolio good enough to get a foot in the door. And there are plenty of opportunities in South Africa to do that. There are multiple events. There are different ways that you can get those exposure moments to add to a portfolio that you can apply for a job.
So I think like just practicing constantly working on improving yourself, and always just being realistic as well, right? Like if you're not a top player in South Africa, if you're not like in the like top school of players in South Africa, it's going to be very hard for you to make it like internationally, because there's just more and more talent.
Like I played Call of Duty 4 and I thought I was pretty good, and I thought my team was pretty good. I managed to compete at Antwerp Esports Festival with a South African company called Cube, who paid for our trip. We got there and we got the biggest reality check that I've ever had playing this game. We got smashed by European teams, absolutely smashed. And back in the day, there was very certain grenades you had to know. These guys were saying like, your grenades are like 2 years old. Like you guys are so far behind what is being played modern, that I do think being realistic and anticipating where the challenges are, that will help you set up the plan. I'm not saying don't be ambitious. I'm not saying don't try. But I do think you need to weigh things up and factor it into to set your expectations right once you factor in the realistic expectations and understanding those different elements. It's harsh, it's difficult. And when you are so far away from the rest of the world and you don't have a market size like many other countries that Europe or America or anywhere else does, they're difficult realities to deal with. And it is frustrating. But with each passing year, it's growing. With each passing year, there's more people playing. There's faster internet. There's cheaper computers. So time is also helping us here and speeding things along.
Also, just like reach out to people. Like that's probably one of the things that I started doing a little bit late in my career. But I mean, like the majority of people in esports are super friendly and super willing to help out. So if you just take initiative from your side and you're actually reaching out to people, looking for help, asking the questions, like the people will end up getting back to you, and that kind of advice can help propel your career a lot quicker than you can on your own.
Between 2007 and 2009, a bunch of firsts happened as well. IGASA, better known as the Amateur Gamers Association of South Africa, handed out South Africa's first gaming colors at the Expo. Intel hosted a South African qualifier for DreamHack Winter for Call of Duty 4. I'm pretty sure everyone's favorite League of Legends Shoutcaster was part of that winning team. Samsung hosted the South African national final of the World Cyber Games for Quake. During this time, there was even a Guitar Hero World Tour National South African Championship on Xbox 360. In 2006, the tide completely changed at rAge. For many years, something called the Telkom DGL, the grand finals of this was happening downstairs. It was a year-long league, and everyone who loved esports came to rAge. They were downstairs in the basement, and that was where they jammed. It changed in 2016 because it came upstairs. Telkom introduced what they then called the DGL Masters for CSGO and Dota 2. They set up a giant stage. It was the first time we had seen something like this. Bright lights, crazy cameras everywhere, and the first ever 6-figure prize pool for esports in South Africa. This is where things changed, and many people would call that moment where the switch flipped, if you like, for South African esports. But I don't think that Masters gets all the credits, because in that exact same year on the expo floor was another esports tournament happening, and it had one of the most hyped crowds I have ever seen. It was the Astro Gaming Call of Duty World League Cup, and it was incredible. Everyone was going mad. They had rugby players and celebrities on the stage playing COD, and they also had one of the Call of Duty's like best shoutcasters of all time, Benson. He was on stage with South African talents, hyping up the crowd, and I think combined in 2016, that just completely changed the game.
But It looks like Paul's gonna be there. No way! No way! Oh, he wins! Did he get it? Oh, he got it! He got it! He did it! I don't believe it! That's a mistake. Tank, he made a clutch play earlier on. Can he do it again? Can that use? And he still gets the kill. Tank, that is up.
On board with Lithium as high five roll in, and it's going to be a big challenge here for Lithium to try to stay alive.
Oh, what a combo!
Attack.
So loud now on that side of the stage. They're trading kills. It's going to be Eros. He's been the X Factor, like I said earlier on. He's going to find 2. Can he find 3? Has Genetics above as well. Buff Genetics up. Going to be 3. Looking for 4.
Oh, Eros plays it from Eros.
Unbelievable play from Eros. He's got the 6. Stop it. 7. Oh my lord. Eros, you nasty man. That was absolutely disgusting. That is why we say he's the X Factor. He just lit up the main stage, and high five now. They're back in this game.
In 2017, the stages got bigger, there were more cameras, and the prize pools got ginormous. Masters continued on the expo floor, but joining them was ESL Africa's African Championship. We had the best Counter-Strike players from around Africa there for the grand finals for a giant amount of money. And we also had even more international talent coming in, with Lauren Pansy Scott, one of CSGO's best shoutcasters here in South Africa, again commentating with the talent. And since then, Esports' rAge has just become a staple. Those stages, those lights, they're there every year, and it's only going to get bigger.
And all of a sudden a flurry of kills all over the place.
And Faith and JT, and right now Flex is doing all the damage. That's a quite B. That's a huge denial. 3 kills.
Shot, and finally he lands one on Sonic, and that's the rifle gone.
The closer they get, the more scary they get from Bravado. Black Poison.
Oh! Whoa! There's that body. Energy picking up another round, 11-2.
Bravado's being an uncomfortable situation. Black Poison wants to back away, Gilly.
But they're applying all the pressure, and the spray down is working here for Cannibalistic.
Probably like test phases of, you know, whether or not there was a big enough gaming culture here, because I mean, for the fact that EA had an actual brick and mortar office and, you know, had invested in that way, that was a sign of intent. And it's sad because I think there's been like peaks and troughs. Some companies have thrived, some haven't. Some have just, you know, formed into other things or been absorbed by other companies to make it work. So I guess at the end of the day, those are business decisions. As long as us gamers get what we want from those companies, then it's okay. But I think that did kind of help lend some legitimacy to our scene. And, you know, you would like to see more of that, of these big companies that are actually involved in gaming, not just kind of looking at us from afar, but, you know, putting their presence on the ground here.
Like, it's one of those things where, you know, I like I said, I got to go to rAge with Incredible Connection, and we took product lines that have never been stocked by the company, and we sold like lots. Not to reveal numbers, but I went back, and that was the big turning point. Everybody internally was then like, "You made how much? How many units did you sell? Like, we don't even sell those things." And I was like, "That's what I've been saying." So there is a hunger for it, and there are people there are enough people to warrant investment, but it also is much harder to get, especially the old boys in South Africa, to understand and to appreciate this industry and this market.
And we're finally enjoying this investment from people who are like, okay, we can trust you to do something. And to see that same group of people grow over the years in credibility and in stature to an organization because they can do that, you know, that for me is one of the things that sticks with me, is that it just started out as like, you know, let's get these sponsors on board, let's change this people's thinking, until those people started singing from the same hymn sheet. You know, you see the investment that has happened over the years by certain individuals in the space.
You know, I managed to get Incredible Connection to attend rAge for the very first time ever. It was with a lot of partnerships, a lot of distributors and importers, and every single step of that journey was a challenge. But it was one that, once you were able to explain and show the number of people, the amount of investment, the amount of hours, the number of upgrades that people in our industry have, you eventually start to turn people. But I mean, we are talking 2008, 2009, 2010, so nearly a decade ago was when the foundations were being laid.
you like to see it, and you like to know that there's a good intent behind it. And I think that was, for me, great to work with a bunch of people where the intent was to respect gamers and to give them a platform and to treat them, the way they want to be treated, and not to speak down to them, and to give them opportunities to make money out of what they do and compete at the highest level locally. You got to give credit to people who have made that happen.
When I was asked to work on the show and put together the history of esports at rAge, it seemed like a pretty easy task, right? We would just go back in time, we'd tell you what happened, we'll throw in a few fun comments. But as I started working on the show, things started to change because I slowly started to realize, chatting to my friends, going back into the archives, watching all the old footage, that this is so much more than the history of esports. This is an example of the springboard that we've had that's only gonna allow us to go higher and higher. Give me a minute, right? You might not know who I am. Maybe this is the first time you're seeing my face, but my name is Tekkel and I am an esports shoutcaster. My first ever real shoutcasting job was at rAge on one of those big stages. Since then, I've gone overseas, I've worked at Gamescom, and I've worked in incredible setups on huge events. But think about it, I'm not the only one. You heard from Quickshot. He is arguably one of the best League of Legends shoutcasters of all times. He will go down in the history books for what he's been able to do at Riot. TC, you got to chat to him. His players, Sonic and JT, I mean, they signed to Cloud9. That's one of the biggest CSGO organizations in the world. We all did this. And all we ever hear, and this happens a lot, is that South Africa is behind, that South Africa is playing catch up, that South African esports is too slow. We're constantly told we're not good enough. But look at what we've done. Look at where we've gone. All of these people who've gone overseas, all of us, we started at rAge, where people told us it was impossible. rAge said, no, it's okay. You can come here, you can be exactly what you want to be. And from there, we were able to go and live our dreams. rAge has given every single competitive gamer or anyone who's interested in esports a chance. No matter who you are, no matter what you look like, no matter your gender, no matter your race, that is the place where we all got our first opportunity. This might have been the history of esports, but I also think it's a celebration of what rAge has done for competitive gamers. If you have any love for esports and if this is where your passion lies, you need to be here every single year because every new superstar will start. And you don't want to be the person that missed it. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Sam Tekkel, right? You've been enjoying rAge online. I hope that next year we get to hang out face to face and in person. GG, well played.